So the build of the pay-per-view has Taker and Austin saving each other from the Hart Foundation attacks, but of course, eventually they turn on each other, and that's probably not the best way to heat up a pay-per-view main event, but it's got to be something where you literally have like no one else to wrestle Taker, right? I mean, you don't want to be doing this show with Austin versus Taker for the first time in a cold babyface versus babyface match, but Brett's out, and well, there's a lot of other folks that are out too. Storyline wise, you just need something. Austin's getting hot. It's worth a shot. What's the thinking, right?
Well, you've got two strong characters that both have edges to them, and not ideal because now you take two of your strongest, most popular characters and put them against each other. Now the audience has to choose. Not ideal. That kind of sucks. But when you're left with a roster, you're going, okay, injured, you have to do something. And sometimes you have to take risks. And I think this was calculated risks because Undertaker and Steve's characters, I think, could handle it and make you want to see it.
It was a really fun show, at least for me as a fan. I wish more of the readers of the Observer agreed. The show gets 47.9% thumbs down, only 27.1% thumbs up, and 25% thumbs in the middle. This is the 15th In Your House. It's from Richmond, Virginia. There's 9,381 fans there. 7,681 of them paid 116 grand and change. And there's another 55 grand in merch. So at least the house is good, but creatively, man, fans just didn't love it. Meltzer had this to say: Cold Day in Hell was just another Sunday afternoon pay-per-view that will largely be forgotten by the end of the week. Vader and Shamrock in the main event, Austin and Undertaker were good matches. The undercard was as lackluster as ever. The show generally lacked heat. The finishes were clean. The outside interference was kept to a minimum, so that the one point it was used for storyline, like Pillman ringing the bell so Steve Austin couldn't pin Undertaker, added to the show rather than resulting of it feeling like just another screw job. But it's more and more clear that WWF is a company that has one tremendous feud on top, and even one that is getting overexposed and very little depth otherwise. And the undercard performers, who should have decent matches on paper, somehow seem to get worse by the month. Now, this was a criticism that I saw a lot, Bruce, and I guess you could even argue that it was factual because the undercard of some of the Nitro shows or the WCW offerings had guys like Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Rey Mysterio, and Chris Jericho, and guys who were just tearing it up. Meanwhile, the undercards here didn't resonate as well. Now on the other channel, the main events were usually something like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper, and they usually couldn't hold a candle to say Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker or Bret and Steve Austin. So the rap at the time amongst the quote unquote smart marks is the WWF had the best main events in the biz, but WCW had the stronger undercard. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think that we were in a transition. I think that to a point, yeah. I think that there was, if you wanted your bell-to-bell wrestling and you wanted to see that, again, depending upon what you liked, then it kind of varied. It's just different.
Let me ask, is part of that difference, and I know there's lots of criticism, plenty to go around, but is part of that Vince Russo? What I mean is, he gets knocked a lot, but I think one thing that we hear a lot that he is credited for is, boy, he made sure that everybody had something. As far as an undercard goes, everybody had a story, everybody had some meat on the bone. And the narrative for a long time was Vince only cares about the main event, and Vince would spend a lot of time focused on the top one or two stories, but the rest of the stories were just sort of there. Do you think that when Russo started to get a little more power, maybe the undercard started to gain steam, or am I just way off base there?
Yeah, I think you're a little way off base. I think that the overall quality, and I would even dare say that, at this point it was getting guys, as my good friend JR will say sometimes, it's, you have a ball team and you got to get guys in the right position. They got to get playing the right position. You need to be able to get through that, the rough edges, and maybe somebody's playing fullback that should be playing wide receiver. And it's just, somebody should be playing defense when they are playing offense all the time. So yeah, it was a feeling out period and just trying to get to the point of getting everybody in the right places.
Dark match here. Rockabilly is going to pin Jesse James in 3 minutes and 36 seconds for the DDT in the free-for-all match. Meltzer would say James' entrance music was messed up. It seemed like an angle, but nothing came of it. For such a short match, it was slow-paced with no heat. The finish was cool, but it's a dud. And boy, you want to talk about two guys that are just a ship with no sail. Bringing back Billy Gunn with the Honky Tonk Man as Rockabilly, and still trying to breathe life into a 3-year-old angle with Jesse James as the road dog. And I'm the real Double J.
Well, he was.
Yeah, I get that. But Lord, it ain't long before you guys figure out, hey, you know what? Let's just throw them together, see what happens. And I'll be damned. The New Age Outlaws, here we go. But just thinking about that match, them two against each other in terrible gimmicks, tells you where we are, and the attitude is right around the corner. Thanks for the feedback. This is a show where we're both allowed to speak.
Well, you had it. You got it all. You said it all.
No.
Okay, Conrad.